Yet again, we see how amazing it is that after all these years, the fear-mongering continues around the Fukushima nuclear disaster, the very first story we covered on this podcast. The Guardian, the BBC, Newsweek, and many other outlets published that a worker at Fukushima just died from radiation exposure. This is not true. What really happened is that the Japanese government decided the worker's family should be paid compensation, just like what happens all over the world when it's just not worth it to fight it. Not only would it be expensive, it looks bad, but on the other hand, it feels good to give grieving families money, so why not? The man died from cancer that was diagnosed in 2016. There's no evidence whatsoever that it happened because of radiation exposure at Fukushima. The compensation happened simply because he was a career nuclear worker who happened to work at Fukushima a couple of times. But what he died from was lung cancer. That's not the kind of cancer you're worried about following nuclear exposure. Moreover, 5 years is just too soon for a diagnosable cancer to show up. In the atomic bomb survivors in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it took decades for cancer to show up, and those were at much higher levels of exposure. The fact is, as we've covered, the cancer rate from Fukushima workers isn't any more than it is in the general population. People get cancer. It's just a thing that happens. The Fukushima workers don't have any more cancer than the general population, and they never will. They didn't get anywhere near enough of a dose for that. Again, as we've covered, the really bad health problems are coming from the fact that the evacuees only had to stay away for about 3 months until the iodine-131 levels decayed, but to this day, they're still not allowed to go back. They've been living as refugees for 7 years, and we've covered the health problems they're facing as a result. In fact, many of them should never have been evacuated in the first place, yet over 1,000 deaths were caused solely by the forced evacuation. Again, the number of deaths attributable to the nuclear disaster itself is 0. On a broader note, there are also bigger health effects from the stress, anxiety, and depression that the fear-mongering about this disaster has caused in the Japanese population. Government doesn't protect us. It creates panic, and the news media gleefully goes along with it. And panic results in very bad health problems.